Jungle Cruise is the latest Disney movie based on a theme park ride. It stars Dwayne Johnson, Emily Blunt, Jack Whitehall, and a bunch of others. Now, going into this movie, I didn't have many expectations. The trailers didn't really sell me on this whole adventure, but I was kind of curious to see what was in store for me. And I'm happy to say that this movie was really good, and I had a great time watching it. But I will say that I was a little nervous during the first 20 minutes of this movie. The first 20 minutes aren't that good. That's basically about Lily getting this thing to find the magical tree that will heal anybody, and it doesn't really seem necessary, or at least they could have cut out a couple minutes of it instead of having a giant action sequence. And after that, we see Dwayne Johnson taking people on a tour on his own Jungle Cruise, which was pretty entertaining, but the movie still didn't pick up yet. But after that, it gets really good. And then the movie just progressively gets better and better as it goes on, and it's just a blast watching it. This movie doesn't have that great of a story. It's pretty average, and you've seen it a bunch of times. But the way they executed it in here was unique and made the movie a lot more better. And you didn't really mind that the story was that average because the execution was so good that it kind of made you feel like you were watching a different version of it. Now, all these films' thirds are great. The first one is basically about everyone trying to get on the boat and get ready for the Jungle Cruise, and it was pretty entertaining to watch despite the first 20 minutes not being so good. Then the second act is in the middle of them. It's better than the first, but not as great as the third, and it's basically them going on the adventure for about an hour, and they're basically going up against all these threats, and a curse gets unlocked, and that was a pretty good act. And then the third act is definitely the best one. It's basically everything is set into motion, and they're finally found the thing they're looking for. And then when they go through that and get the flower, and then all these undead monsters start attacking them, it's super entertaining and probably one of my personal favorite third acts. But there is a problem with the third act, and it is before we get to the final place that the heroes are looking for. And it basically makes the movie feel like another 20 minutes are tacked on. But I will say that they are some pretty good 20 minutes, and I probably wouldn't cut them. But it is still kind of an issue because it feels like you're watching the movie a lot longer than you really are. Now, the main trio, Dwayne Johnson, Emily Blunt, and Jack Whitehall, are really good in this movie. They're all really charismatic and funny, and Dwayne Johnson has some cheesy lines, but he delivers them so well that they're actually pretty funny. And their chemistry is really entertaining and probably one of the highlights of the film. That said, I was thinking to myself that I don't like it as much as other critics do. Other critics really praised it, and I liked it, but I don't think it was the highlight of the film. I think that the actual adventure was, and this was just another fun thing added on to it. Unfortunately, though, there are no other standouts besides the main trio. Jesse Plemons is pretty good in here, but still, he doesn't stand out that much. And the performances that the people give are good, but you don't really remember them separately. You just kind of remember them as a group. But still, they were pretty entertaining for what they had. But I think that they needed to flesh them out a little more if they wanted more characters to be interesting. This movie actually also has a pretty good soundtrack. Other people are saying that it's not really good and seems forced, but I think it's good for what it is. It does seem like it heightens the thrills of the action sequences, and it's also a pretty good soundtrack soundtrack for a jungle movie in particular. Now, this movie is chock full of amazing and fun action, and it even sometimes pushes Disney's limits. I mean, this is certainly a family movie, but with a PG-13 rating, Disney really took it into an account and put some pretty intense stuff in here. Like, the climax has one of these people open his face in half, and a bunch of snakes come out of it. And it was pretty cool to see Disney taking some risks with their movies. And there's also a lot of other creepy creatures throughout the movie, like a bunch of people made out of bees and stuff. And that was pretty cool to watch and see. But another thing that isn't so good about this movie is the plot twist. The main plot twist of this movie is that Frank is actually immortal and 400 years old, which basically kind of destroys the chemistry between him and Emily Blunt. They still have chemistry, but it doesn't work as much as it used to when you didn't know about the plot twist. And it does feel over executed when you find it out. It feels like they kind of just jumped between it and not really explained it throughout the next 3 scenes. And I think that they should have just explained it in one whole scene instead of jumping around to other scenes. But in the end, I really recommend this movie and think that you should watch it as soon as you can. Now, where should you watch it? Theaters or Disney Plus? Honestly, I don't think it matters. Unlike their Disney's other premiere access movies, Cruella and Black Widow, I would encourage you to go see it in the theater. But I do think that the option is yours if you want to see it in theaters or Disney Plus. But I do recommend, if you have smaller children that are interested in seeing it, that you should probably stick to Disney Plus, because there is some jump scares in there that might scare them if you take them to the theater. And I also think the key to enjoying this movie is to watch it with a friend. I did, and I had a lot more fun than I expected. So I think you should bring someone with you if you're going to watch this movie. In the end, I had a much better time with Jungle Cruise than I expected, and I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Thanks so much for watching. You can check out my second channel, Nerd Nation Vlogs, in the description below. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!